3 verse 16 clarifies that the promises made to Abraham in Genesis chapter 12 actually apply to Jesus Christ and all believers, thereby making New Testament Christians the chosen people of God. Is dispensationalism biblical? No. Dispensationalism is the teaching that the Bible is divided into various ages, also referred to as dispensations, where God dealt with humanity in various ways, specifically in the matter of salvation and the nation of Israel. The men responsible for its popularity and propagation are John Nelson Darby, a preacher of the 1800s, also referred to as the father of modern dispensationalism, Clarence Larkin, who systematized his teachings and organized them into various charts, and C.I. Scofield, who popularized its teachings within churches via his Scofield Reference Bible. Dispensationalism relies heavily upon three-pillar doctrines that are carefully crafted in order to favor the Jews and, in my opinion, infiltrate churches with Zionism. Remove any one of these pillars and the integrity of the doctrine will be completely compromised. Pillar number 1, Zionism. Dispensationalists believe that the Jews were and still are God's chosen people. They'll often use the footnotes of C.I. Scofield's interpretation of Genesis chapter 12 in order to teach it. Now, if this were true, this would mean that the promises in the Old Testament given to the nation of Israel regarding the land still apply to Christ-rejecting, unbelieving Israel of today, thereby justifying 1948 and the current Israeli occupation. However, Galatians chapter 3 verse 16 clarifies that the promises made to Abraham in Genesis chapter 12 actually apply to Jesus Christ and all believers, thereby making New Testament Christians the chosen people of God.
This is a little bit of a misrepresentation of what dispensationalism is at its normal level, right? Obviously, there is an extreme of everything, just like there's an extreme of covenant theology, which turns into replacement theology, which then turns into like a Catholic, Eastern Orthodox kind of thing, where they're actually replacing the priests, Pharisees, Sadducees, and the works-based salvation characteristics that Christ himself rejected in Judaism. So it's not great to conflate Zionism and dispensationalism. Real dispensationalism is the idea that God has communicated with mankind differently throughout the ages, right? So there is the time period where God communicated with man directly: Adam, Noah, Abraham. Abraham's descendants grew into a nation and then communicated with the nation through what they call judges: Moses, Caleb, and Samson, a whole bunch of individuals. Move into prophets and kings, and then into Christ himself, then disciples, apostles, and now God communicates to mankind through the church and his written word. So there are different periods of communication. That's more of what the baseline dispensationalism is. There's like there's eras of interaction between God and man. Now, referencing the Scofield Bible and these folks, they predate Israel becoming a nation again. So it doesn't justify 1948. The Scofield Bible was published in 1909. So the idea that Israel would become a nation again was actually proven correct, because they did become a nation again. And the ideas that also come along with dispensationalism, the idea that most things in Revelation are happening in the future, where Israel will build the third temple, the Great Tribulation, the Antichrist, the millennial kingdom to come, it's currently tending toward that direction. The idea that Israel will become a nation again was circulating around well before the Scofield Bible was published, but then 1909 it is published, and the idea does become more widespread, and then Israel does become a nation. The idea that there's going to be another temple built was circulating around for a long time prior to that, and now they have all the tools prepped to build the next temple. They're looking for the animals to then sacrifice. They believe that they're that close to it. There is fighting to get the Temple Mount back. The mark of the beast, that's always been thought to be the technological thing more than just an armband or something like Diocletian had, and to be more widespread and global, is happening with digital IDs. We are tending toward that millennial kingdom view that tribulation is coming. But what you won't see very often is folks who believe the opposite of dispensationalism are covenant theologists and replacement theologists. They'll never give those things a name, because once you give it a name, you can mischaracterize it and dismiss it entirely, which is what they do with dispensationalism. Now, I don't agree with many points of dispensationalism. I certainly do not agree with Zionism, but to mischaracterize it and to lump everything together and make no distinction between what is true about it and what is not makes it very easy to just get rid of. So there's, like, I guess, a weird version of dispensationalism that believes that salvation was also in dispensations, which also kind of is. Israel made sacrifice looking forward to the coming Messiah, and we look back at the fulfillment of that sacrifice. So kind of is, but not really. It's still, at the baseline, it's still faith, but it is a looking forward faith and a looking back faith, and they were demonstrated differently. We have faith and we declare it, and we proliferate the gospel around the globe. They had faith and they were insular mostly and performed their looking forward sacraments. That's what they were instructed to do. So it is a little bit different. There are eras. Things did change once Christ separated himself from Judaism as a whole, died, and then gave the gospel over to the Gentiles. Those are dispensations. However, the baseline truth that salvation has always been through faith is still also true at the same time. Israel has always been a rebellious nation. That's literally what Jacob's name changing over to Israel means. They've always been in rebellion. They've always gone through long periods of worshiping the Baals and Ashtoreths and Molechs. They always have. Even in those times, they were still his people. Paul worked very hard throughout the entirety of Romans to separate out the incorrect bloodline and works-based salvation that the Jews were practicing in Judaism, and the faith-based salvation that Abraham actually had because his faith preceded the law. Paul, numerous times in chapter 11 alone, makes it very clear that God has not rejected Israel entirely. They are not done, but they are under a period of a stupor. They have eyes that are blind to see and ears that are deaf to hear, is what chapter 11 says. They will be redeemed. I will redeem the children of Jacob. And he makes that distinction because they are the children of Jacob. We are the children of Abraham.